All right, welcome back. This is week 68 of the preparation. And I usually like doing the walk and talk type videos, but sometimes it's easier to think when you're in a confined space. I think best when I'm in a darker room and I'm in a space meant for thinking instead of just walking around, especially when it's hot outside. It's not all that pleasant. So, but this was week 69 of the preparation, and I've noticed a common theme while doing, while being the beta tester for the preparation, and that's the theme of the ebb and flow of life. And by that I mean specifically that there are periods of very little activity, very few events, which usually stretch over long periods of time, then short period where a lot happens, and that's followed once again by a period of activity, but still not necessarily all that interesting or impactful. At least it doesn't seem impactful on its face. But all that time, but that downtime is leading up to the moment where it's more interesting, more happens. So, yeah, that's the case with this week because last week a lot happened. We got the 50 chicks, or around 50 chicks that I wanted to get to start raising meat chickens. We got those in, and they're growing very fast. We also butchered a cow early in the week, and along with that, we started artificially inseminating the about 60 of our cows. And that's a lot within 1 week. I was also on a podcast, or the podcast I was on was published that week. So just a lot of things happen, and that's usually how life seems to go, I've noticed. But this week, going with the theme of the ebb and flow in life, was not all that interesting. Part of that's due to it raining a lot. Part of that's due to Thanksgiving. So I guess I don't feel so bad, really. If everyone's not got much going on this past week, then it's not that big of a deal. But there weren't that many farm activities because it was raining. It's very common for people here just to not work at all. At least in the campo, in the country, it's common for them not to work at all if it rains, to just stay inside. And it was raining pretty heavily, so there was no chance of work outside. But that also meant that I couldn't mow the fields, which is something I've been doing quite a lot of because this time of year a lot of weeds pop up, and just with it going from spring into summer, there's lots of growth of all types of plants. So we get just woody brush out there that needs to be cut down. Plus, we're restarting the grass cycle completely by cutting it down. Just almost, I guess we're leaving maybe 2, 3 inches of grass. So we're cutting it down pretty far to completely restart that cycle. So I could only do that at the end of the week where the weather cleared up, and that was after Thanksgiving. But along with that, I've been starting something that I wish I had been doing much more throughout the preparation, and that is studying a specific topic. The last time I can recall sitting down to actually study a very specific thing was copywriting. And that was back in May and June of this year. And before that, the last thing I studied was economics, and that was a year ago. That was this time a year ago. And that was just basic economic principles, and I used Safety Amos's book, The Principles of Economics, as the backbone of the study. So, but I've come to realize that a lot of good things can come out of studying, studying more important topics. For example, even the study of basic economics, not only did it help me learn more, but it helped me actually understand the world more. And the best example I have of that was while I was studying it, we were artificially inseminating the cows at the time, and I looked around and I realized that that was the division of labor in practice. We all had our own jobs, our very specific jobs, and we were working cohesively to complete one job, to reach one goal. And yeah, that was very interesting. But that idea is so helpful and so important. But if I wouldn't have studied something fairly basic, at least something that should be fairly basic, then fairly basic and widely studied, then I wouldn't have realized that. So, not only that, but even studying basic EMT, emergency medical technician stuff was very, very useful. And even though I did that along with a school that had a set curriculum and set classes, learning that allowed me to have many opportunities. I mean, not only just to become a certified EMT, but to attend a rope rescue course in South Dakota and to work on wildfires in the US. I like that 4 months of studying something fairly basic led me down that road. So I wish I would have studied more, but I got back to it this past week and I started with Hillsdale College's free course on Athens and Sparta. It's very interesting, very interesting. The most interesting thing I've learned thus far, though, is about the decline of Athens. And this theme keeps coming up quite a lot recently, the decline of empires. My dad handed me a 24-page essay today about the decline of empires, and I read through it. It's very interesting. There's a formula for how empires decline, and it's eerily similar across untold numbers of empires. The largest empires, they all follow the same formula for collapse, for rise and collapse. And across 3,000 years, it's pretty much the same general formula. There's slight changes with every empire, but it's generally the same outcome. It's the same outcome, the same path is followed. So, as I was taking this course, I noticed something interesting, and that was that originally those in Athens who were landowners were the only ones who could participate in politics and the military. They made up the military, and they were the only ones who could influence politics in any way or enact laws. They were their own political party and own military. But over time, that began to change in Athens, and soon everyone was allowed to vote, everyone was allowed to participate in government, and anyone could join the military. The landowners and more wealthy people had a more prestigious part in the military. For example, if you were more wealthy, you were likely to own a horse, and if you owned a horse, you were part of the cavalry, and the cavalry was a much more prestigious role. But for the poor people who had nothing, had no stake in the country, no real stake in the land by actually owning a plot of land where you grew food. I mean, by owning land, you have a stake, you have a reason to care about things. So all of a sudden, these people who had no reason to care about anything got all these rights and privileges, and a lot of those people ended up as, at least in the military, for the military, they were working as Marines on ships. And that was the much less prestigious. They were with the Navy. It was much less prestigious. So I noticed that was very interesting because it's the same in America. I mean, it used to be that only landowners could vote, and again, landowners have a reason. They have a reason to care. They have created something. They own something, and they've created something. They continuously create something through the animals they raise, the crops they grow, their house, their home is there. They have a reason to care. And then all of a sudden, that was changed, and everyone got the rights and privileges that the landowners had. And the playing field became completely level. Equality became the norm, and that started the decline. So it's very interesting to start studying that. And something else that was very interesting as well, besides that, which this has nothing to do with that idea, was the Battle of Plataea, which was just after the Battle of Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, where the 300 Spartans, led by Leonidas, died. The reason the Battle of Plataea is so cool is because the Spartans led the war against the Persians. Nobody trusted the Athenians because as Athens began to decline, everyone got the right to vote and participate in government and participate in the military. Athens began attacking the neighboring peoples. So nobody trusted them. Because Sparta was so conservative in their way of life, and they did conquer other people and had many slaves underneath them, they controlled a fairly large area. They didn't do it in the way that Athens did. That affected so many more people. So people, the forces that joined up in Greece against Persia were led by the Spartans because everybody trusted them more. So in this Battle of Plataea, after the Battle of Thermopylae, the Spartans lead the battle. They eventually lure the Persians to a spot where the Spartans can pretend like they're terrified of the Persians, and they retreat. But the point is that when they retreat, they get to a place where the Persian cavalry and the archers cannot be used, which were two of the Persian army's greatest assets. And when they worked together, they were pretty much unbeatable. So they lured the Persians to a spot where those two assets could not be used, and they turned around, and the Persians who followed them, the infantrymen, got slaughtered, completely slaughtered. So the Spartans kept pushing them back and back, farther and farther, until the Athenians join in, and they push the Persians, all the way back to a stockade that the Persians had built. And at that point, the Spartans and Athenians join together, break through that stockade, and slaughter everyone. Everyone. I believe the number of deaths on the Greek side is somewhere around 2,000, but the number of deaths on the Persian side of that battle was somewhere between 30 and 40,000. 30 and 40,000. And I just thought that was awesome. That was a complete slaughter. And that was when they really began to win the war against the Persians. But anyway, that's a long version of saying it's good to study things, even though it might not directly help you. The same is with me choosing to learn chess, for example. It doesn't directly affect me in any way. I don't plan on becoming a international chess champion or even a national chess champion. I don't expect that. And that's not the goal. The goal is to do something interesting, to learn a skill while disciplining myself to do that thing every day. So yeah, it doesn't have to directly affect you in any great way, but it can lead down roads that you never thought possible. So I began studying that this week. Along with that, we've continued working on the preparation book. I also read a few books, but you can check those out on the Substack page, where you can also see my what I did this week posts. But I did that, and I did the normal 30 minutes of chess almost every day, Spanish classes this past week, and working out almost every day. Those are the discipline based things, those three things, at least at the moment. So, yeah, not the most eventful week, and that's to be expected, honestly, but still a good week nonetheless. But hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time.